Welcome to the latest episode of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app on Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, on Android, Spotify, or the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. Also, make sure you subscribe to Off the Floor. That's our Discord server. Subscriber link right here in the description. $2.99 a month. You won't feel it. You get so much heat information there and conversation that you won't need anything else. You won't have to even log into Twitter anymore, and that's a benefit in itself. So check it out. Link in the description. Use your laptop, not your phone, because you bypass the Apple upcharge. So go to your laptop, click on it from the description, sign up, pay the $2.99, cancel at any time. Also check out Prize Picks. Use the code 5FIVE. MLB getting up towards the All-Star break. Make sure you get your plays in. We got J-Rod, Austin, Eric, and the crew. They're all telling you what to play on a given day. Also WNBA. We got a group that's experts in that as well. So follow all of them. Use the code 5FIVE. We got the same deal over the summer. You put down 5, you get 50. And now, today's episode.
Mercy, luxurious, Heat Nation, yeah, Mercy and Lago, down to Biscayne, yeah, 5 on the floor, ride for my dogs, where here's the thing, you can check the score, hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frogs, down to Biscayne. Kept the floor playing, got it all banned. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's power have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
All right, welcome back to 5 on the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick in the 5 Reasons Sports. I got Alex Toledo. You can follow him at Tropical Blanket. We continue to follow developments and look for angles after Norm Powell was acquired by the Miami Heat in exchange for Kevin Love, Kyle Anderson. It appears that Kevin Love, after being bought out by Utah, is going to go re-sign in Cleveland. So good for him. He obviously maintains strong ties with that organization, and he'll get a chance to reunite with Max Strus, one of his good friends, if he does that. So hope that works out for Kevin. Obviously, he gave a lot to the Heat organization while he was here. But there were a couple of Heat players, one retained and one just acquired, who spoke to the media today. One was Davion Mitchell. He spoke at Junior Heat Camp down at Slam, Miami. By the way, my daughter's had great experiences with Junior Heat, so I recommend that if you have your kids, want to get them in the program, that you check that out. But also Simone, you know how bad I am at this, Fontecchio, Chow. He even said ciao when he left today. He was with us on a Zoom call talking about his acquisition by the Miami Heat. Now, that was in a trade for Duncan Robinson, the sign-in trade. Basically, he took a little bit less salary back. Duncan got to go place he wanted to go. And Fontecchio appears that he's going to stay for now, at least. This is one of those cases like Kyle Anderson last year, where he could have been moved, or in this case, waived and stretched. I know it's been considered, but the Heat would like to take a look at him first, and he's had a couple big games against the Heat. But this sort of starts a conversation for us that Brady and I were having prior to the acquisition of Powell, and then he and I hit on it again, but I want to get more in depth with you on this. The Heat knew they didn't have enough shooting. And so I'm going to go through some of the players on this team, and I want you to tell me whether or not you think they will shoot better or worse, and if, as a conglomerate, there's enough shooting on this team as is. Now, this is prior to any additional possible trades. They could trade Wiggins. They could trade Rozier. They could sign Dame, although we don't think that's going to lead to him playing this season. So let's go through it, and you talk about sort of what you think their contribution will be and whether they'll shoot better or worse. Let's start with Davion, actually, because he was the big surprise last year. And let me just get his shooting numbers from last season for the Miami Heat, because they were well above in terms of what he's done prior. So last season, Alex, after he was acquired by the Heat, or let's go through the overall. He shot 39.8% from three last season, 39.8%. I'm trying to find the numbers since he got to Miami, but I think they were better in Miami. So let's just start with the overall. Okay. Do you think Davion Mitchell can shoot basically 40% again this season from three?
I guess. you know, kind of in the way that like Haywood is a 40% guy, right? Like we know that that he's hitting the open shots to at a decent enough rate, right? That's kind of where we got to with Haywood. But you don't look at him as a shooter. Now I think Davion has kind of a quicker, more compact release, right? In general, as a guard, is better with the ball in his hands. So there's some differences to their games there, right? Whereas Haywood is a strictly type of off-ball wing, but I look at them kind of in a similar way, where it's like I don't think necessarily that his shooting was fluky. I just don't think it's going to stay at like 45% or whatever it was post Heat trade. Like that would be incredible. 45% is an insane mark, right?
And that's what it was, by the way. I just looked up 44.8% with the Heat, but I that number is so crazy that's why I'll bring it back to the 39. Yeah, close to 40%.
Exactly. 45% is not going to happen. I think close to 40 can definitely happen. I think because they're going to keep leaving him open. Now, look, there's always like degrees to everything, right? There's degrees to being left open and how late like a team is willing to go out and contest, right? I think he's still going to be left open. And I think there's going to be late contests. And I think because of that, he takes like a good quality of shots, doesn't force a lot of like tough off the dribble ones, right? I think that makes it an easy pathway for him to be an above average, to have an above average 3-point percentage again. I wouldn't say 45 though. That's for sure.
All right, let's go to Fontecchio, who I asked him at the very end of his Zoom call today, where he likes to get his shots. Could he see himself?
That was a great question, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I try occasionally. Where has he studied Duncan at all? And getting in, sort of dribble handoffs and all the stuff that Duncan did well. And he said he did think he could do some of that stuff. And Fontecchio has good size. That's not an issue. He can get it. I mean, what is he, 6'8", right? He's legit.
I was just looking it up. Actually, he's about 6'7", 6'8", and has a 6'11" wingspan. For good measure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, he's got good size, but he made a joke. He said, "Well, I like to think of myself more as a shooter because I was pretty bad at shooting last year." So the Heat fans who know of him or watched enough games will not think he was a bad shooter last year because he's never been anything but an elite shooter against Miami. Like this is one of those Wayne Ellington situations where the guy kills Miami and they end up bringing him in. That's how I first heard of him. Actually, it was their game in Utah. He came in and he just torched them for a quarter. But if you go back to the previous season in Detroit. Only played 16 games. He shot 43% on 6.3 attempts. But then last year on 3 attempts per game, and he played 75 games, but he averaged half the minutes that he did because it was a better Detroit team this year. And he said he was chasing the game a little bit because of injuries. He only took 3 attempts per game and shot 33.5%.
Doesn't this sound familiar, what we're doing here?
It does. So I'm asking the question, do you think if he gets a back-end rotation spot, which is not crazy if you look at what they have right now, if he has a good camp, that he will shoot better than 33.5% with what the Heat do?
Absolutely. I don't think that's even a stretch to say. Now, it's no guarantee, of course, but I think you brought up a good point there mentioning the season before, which I was taking a little gander at his career. And that was really like the season where we've got just the biggest sample of him as a rotation player on a team. Right. Whereas the first season and last season with the injury, the minutes were kind of down. Like he wasn't necessarily a night to night rotation guy. He was not this season, but the last one, like you mentioned. And I think that was when you got to see the best out of him. So I don't want to nitpick and just say, hey, look, his good season was the only one that counts, but that is the only one where, we got to see a full sample of him. And I think what you see is a guy who is obviously a really, really comfortable shooter. Like he has such a quick release for a guy his size. Like you mentioned, he said that he studied Duncan's tape, thinks he can come off of handoffs, thinks he can come off a screen, says he considers himself more than a shooter and is all about like doing the right things to stay on the floor, all that stuff. And look, the one thing I remember saying like on Media Row, because he torched the Heat a couple of times in that season, was that like not only does he have a quick release, but he's also a pretty like aggressive straight line driver when he's attacking a closeout. Like he doesn't mind the physicality, and sometimes it doesn't always end up with a successful layup or anything like that. But like sometimes it'll end up with a foul call. But just in general, he plays with a lot of force when he drives a closeout. So he's not exactly the same type of he doesn't have the same type of wiggle I think with the ball as Duncan. But the shooting and the straight line driving a closeout, I think along with the size, like the things that you can absolutely bank on with him. And just in general, I think he's somebody that is so easy to fit into what they're doing. And look, like, maybe we'll do this episode another day.
Mm-hmm.
But I just, like, would it shock you whatsoever if he's like in the back end of the rotation and not a guy like Kasparis, and maybe even like over a guy like Jaquez? You know what I mean? Like, I could totally see Fontecchio being in the rotation opening night if he's still here.
I could too, and I don't know how Heat fans are going to feel about that, because Fontecchio is 30 now.
And the whole leaning young thing.
Leaning young, I know. That's the whole thing. So let me get to one more guy, and then on the other side of this, I'm going to have one general question for you. Norm Powell, last year, 7.1 three-point attempts. That's the highest of his career in 32.6 minutes, which was not a career high, but pretty close to it. 7.1 attempts. He shot 41.8% from three. This comes after a season which he shot 43.5% from three, 5.1 attempts. And his prior work with the Clippers previous season, after coming over from Portland, he shot 39.7% on 4.8 attempts. And he only played 5 games with the Clippers the year before, but he made 54% of his threes. Let's just take last year's numbers. 41.8%. So almost 42% from three on 7 attempts. It's a lot. I'll say this. Over under on the 3-point percentage with Miami. Over under. Should do prize picks on this. Over under on the attempts with Miami.
Ooh, I thought you were going to go percentage. Oh, the attempts.
Both.
This is a tough question. I'm going to say under. I think he had a decent amount of open threes.
You're saying under on the attempts.
Yes.
Under on the attempps. Okay.
Yes. I was going to say under on the percentage as well, but then the attempts one I hadn't really thought over. That was a tough one. But yeah, like, I just think in general he had a good amount of like easy shots created for him by the hands of Harden, who's been one of the a top 10 passer in the league for 10 years now, and 10 plus years now. Like, I just think there's going to be a certain level of open shots that he might not have to the same degree. I still think he's going to be a high volume 3-point shooter. Like, I can 100% see myself being wrong there, because I do think the Heat will use him, as much as they can. Like, we saw them try to use Wiggins, in a kind of offense heavy way. And I think Norm Powell is already like that type of player, right? Like, he is ready to go out there and get buckets for you in a variety of ways. They need the shooting. They need the extra, rim pressure in general. They can use everything he's going to do. I think he's still going to be used a lot. Maybe the efficiency comes down, but I think, like the great part about him is that he doesn't miss open shots. Like, somebody posted his open shot, his open 3-point percentage statistics over the past like 5 years, and it's insane. Yeah. He doesn't miss open threes for the most part. But that's the thing. I wonder with how he's going to look efficiency wise and just overall, if he's not getting quite as many easy shots.
Yeah, I am going to differ with you on one part of this and agree on the other. I think it's over on the attempts. I think Spo is going to jack his attempts up.
I can see the Powell Bam 2-man game being a thing right away also. So yeah.
I can see him getting close to 9 attempts per game, honestly. I don't think he's going to shoot 42%, though, for the reason you said. I don't think there's going to be as many open ones as there was with LA. And that's even with Kawhi being out for part of the time. But Harden does command, because of reputation, he does command doubles that Tyler started to command at the end of last season, but it's not to quite the same degree. So I'm going to say, I think if he had 8 attempts and shot 38% on those 8 attempts, you'd absolutely take that. I think that's closer to where it ends up. But he is a great shooter. Like, I was watching just highlights of him last night, and like he gets to the same form every time. Like, there's no variance with it. He doesn't take a lot of bad ones. He really doesn't. Like, he looks under control, set. That translates anywhere. It's just that I don't know that he's going to get as many. So I think he may have to force a few more, and I think so the percentage comes down a little bit. All right, on the other side, I'm going to ask you this question, so I want you to think about this so you don't tell me it's a tough question on the other side, okay? I'm going to give you these players, okay? Bam, Wiggins, if here, Jovic. Tyler, we know what he's going to shoot from 3, so we don't need to get into that. Bam, Ware, I'll throw him in there. Bam, Ware, Jovic, Jaquez, Wiggins. You tell me who you think is going to take a leap up from 3 this year to help them be a decent 3-point shooting team, if that's the case. Okay, so I'll give you those names. Haywood, I think we kind of know he's already sort of taken that place. We know where he's comfortable from. He has some games where he's pretty good, but I'm going to give you those names here. I'll throw Larson in the mix too if you want him as well. All right. So, but before we do, real estate market's getting really complicated in South Florida, but there are a lot of houses that are for sale. So we're starting to hit the other end of this thing. Reach out to professionals who will help you and your family find the best deal. Realestateshopfl.com. That's realestateshopfl.com to help you navigate everything from interest rates on entire housing market in Broward County in particular, but also Dade. They're everywhere doing the open houses. Javier, Amanda, they're everywhere from Lauderdale to Pembroke Pines, Sunrise, Davie, all over South Florida. Check them out at realestateshopfl.com. That's 2 P's and an E. That's realestateshopfl.com, or the Fort Lauderdale Realtor on Instagram. Okay, of that group, who takes the leap this year? Who needs to take the leap and who does?
Oh, who needs to take the leap? Honestly, Jaquez is the easiest answer there. He needs to take the leap to being an average 3-point shooter because he is pretty, like, he was very below that threshold last season, right? Larson is probably who I would say second as far as who needs to, because look, I shouldn't have expected him to be closer to a shooter than I did when they first drafted him. I think I was looking too much at the percentage and just being able to take catch and shoot stuff. But like seeing him up close all year, I think he's a little further. Not than Jaquez. I just mean further than I thought originally of Pella. Like, I don't think of him as like, okay, this guy is going to hit his open threes. He's solid. I think he has a little bit of work to do. I don't think it's like a huge project or anything. Like, if you told me he's a fine, he's a 35% catch and shoot guy this year, I don't think that's that surprising. I think he could get to that level, and I think that's kind of what you want with him and Jaquez. Although the Jaquez one just seems further away, which is like, I don't know. He has in general, like, his shot isn't ugly, but when you see him shoot it, he doesn't seem like he has a lot of confidence in the open threes. He sometimes passes them up, and did towards the end of the season last year before he was benched. He definitely has the most to go. But the one that I from the guys you named, the answer that stuck out to me as far as who will have a better percentage, I don't know about leap, because leap implies like this huge step. I don't really see a leap. But Bam. I think Bam's shooting stabilized down the season, and I don't want to do too much as far as, again, like just picking out like which sample you like better, and that's the one that you think is gonna extrapolate over an entire season. But I do think Bam's like shot in general is a good looking one, is one that I think he got more comfortable with as the season went on. I don't expect him to be like a high volume 3-point guy. I don't want to go back to the conversations we were having before last season, but in general, I just think the percentage will be a little bit cleaner. Like, I think did he finish last season with like 33%, I want to say.
I know. I think it got better than that because he had a good run in the last 20 games. Let me just check. I feel like he climbed over it. I mean, you know how I feel about that one. Like, I
don't want him taking more threes. I could just see
the
percentage going up for the couple the couple that he does take, basically.
Yeah, let me check out where he ended up. But the second half was better than the first half. He went through a run where he didn't want to make one forever. He ended up at 35.7% on 2.8 attempts.
Oh, wow.
I mean, again,
that's a nice percentage.
As a nice sidelight. I mean, he shot close to 40%, I believe, in the last 25 games of the season. So that's positive. I don't want to see them lean into it much more. I want it to be an option for them at the end of clock. The corners, I think, are still his best place. I'll tell you this. I know you didn't really get into Wiggins much, and we don't know if he's going to be here or not. But I would like him to lean into it less, honestly, with him. I feel like if he's – I want to see more attacks, more mid-range. I want to see him use kind of in secondary actions. It's just hard to know what to make of his play towards the end of the season and why he collapsed in the playoffs, because we saw – these flourishes, and then there was the ankle injury, and then I know that some of this has been blamed on that, but it also looked like sort of not really knowing how to use him, whether it's Golden State Wiggins or Minnesota Wiggins, or where his role was or how comfortable he was. but I just don't feel him shooting a lot of those flat threes. Like it feels like when he's in rhythm, okay. It's kind of how I felt about Jimmy, and he's better at it than Jimmy was. But that's not really where
I don't want him taking on-ball threes.
No, that's my thing, right? That's I don't want him seeing. I don't want him handling a lot and then handling into a three.
I like the idea of him taking a lot of catch and shoot ones because I trust him on those.
Yeah, I mean, look, he just doesn't get. He's like Jimmy. He doesn't get a lot of loft on the shot, so it never looks good. But there are times where it starts to go in. But I'm going to give you another guy. I am starting to lean into this, and especially as he's still here and they didn't want to trade him. I mean, to me, the guy who makes them different offensively this year, if they find the right role for him, is Jovic. And if they can, we know he can make those catch and shoot threes. He's done it. It's not what I want to see him doing all the time because I just think he's capable of more. But he looks good on his shot a lot of times.
He has some on-ball three upside that I think he might be able to tap into.
Yes,
because you're right. I didn't even think about him because like I know what he is as a catch and shoot guy. But I think that's what could separate him. If you're talking about I think that might be the closest thing to a leap you get from like that group of guys. If Jovic like becomes more confident with that on-ball three, where he's like a guy gives him any sort of space or goes under at all, and he's just firing away. Because we know that he's a pass first type of guy. He likes to get into the paint and create for others when he does get the ball in his hands, play out of pick and roll. But like, I think because of that, sometimes it's like, hey, like that three is right there for you. You're like 6'11", dude. If they're giving you a little bit of space, like I don't think he would be that mad at you if you fire in a relatively open one. So I think if
when he feels confident, when he feels confident with the rest of his game, he will. That's the thing. But with him, it's all finding a comfort level with what it is they want him to do exactly, and then you'll see him have these flourishes in the game. And even the game where he took the 2 crazy threes at the end and made a bunch of mistakes. But before that, he was coming back from being off for weeks. But before that, we saw stretches where like, okay, there it is. And I am starting to get into, especially now that they've added Powell, I'm thinking, all right, you got Tyler, you got Powell, you're going to get 3-point shooting from your backcourt. See what Davion provides. I'm not counting on a lot from 3 from Ware this year. I don't think that's where this should be going. Bam, I think maybe ends up in about the same place. Jovic, to me, is the X factor here, offensively in a lot of other ways. I just think there's a lot more to tap into. They got to find the right role for him, and that, to me, is going to be one of our major training camp stories. All right, Alex, appreciate it. We'll have more episodes as they come. Summer League play.
What about Eric Stevenson?
The new Cole Swider. Playback.tv/5RSN. Join us on there. We'll be checking out the Summer League game tonight. If you hear this episode before that, I'm coming to you on Tuesday night. I'll actually be out at Summer League in Las Vegas. It's 111 degrees today. Out, and it's going to be, and that is the lowest temperature it's going to be all week. So I'll be frying in Vegas to watch Eric Stevenson. I'll be out there from the 11th through the 15th. It's great with a hangover. Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to the 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. After all, someone needs to listen to my dad.